Hey, it's Tequila Todd from the Eagle. Want to take you back to 1983. It was late summer. School was about to start, and a week or so before school was beginning, some friends of mine and I went down to Kings Island, and we spent the day riding roller coasters, chasing girls, and psyching ourselves up for a show that night at Timberwolf Amphitheater. And that show was Adam Ant with opening act INXS. And I was a huge INXS fan, have been ever since, and I'm really excited to have in the studio with me one of the co-founders of INXS, Andrew Farriss. Andrew, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. What are some of your recollections from that 83 tour where you were opening for Adam Ant, but you also opened for Men at Work?
Yeah.
The Go-Go's?
Yeah, in that period,
right.
Quite a few acts, actually, and also... overseas, but we've also had our own shows and career,
right.
Before that. But yeah, we started off touring here in the US in around about 83.
Right.
And that tour was actually really important for us. We played Memorial Hall, I think, right here in Dayton.
That's right. And I have a question about that, because I also saw in my research that you played Springfield, Ohio a few days prior.
Right.
And I'm curious, what happened those 2 days between the Springfield show and the Dayton show? What could you have possibly found to do in Dayton for 2 days?
Well, we always used to get out and look around whatever we were doing in a country. It's a shame to go all that way, meet all these people.
That's right. Yeah.
You never seen the place before. So usually you get out and it's good to get the exercise. You learn a bit about where you are, a bit about the culture, a bit about history. And also, you get something to eat. But I do remember that all those early years of touring for us were great.
Right.
And we cut our teeth on live touring as a band, and we had great audiences and great support from people. And not just the audiences from the industry as well. And,
sure.
But my main sort of role, if you like, in it was to write songs. That's what I am. I'm a songwriter for and within INXS, that was something that I did, and Michael, we did it together. And but it was a great band. I really loved the guys in the band, and really we had an amazing experience. Two of my brothers as well.
Sure. What was that process like, writing with Michael? I mean, I know I actually saw that biopic that came out a year ago in Australia about INXS. And I have always wondered, like with biopics, they jam a bunch of stuff together and they take creative license. They say, oh, well, this must have been how it was like when they wrote Never Tear Us Apart. How accurate was that at all?
Well, I'm not sure specifically of what you're referring to, but all I can say is my recollection of a lot of the writing we did together was really, most of it, how can I explain, was wherever we were at the time, it was a sequence of events which is hard to make up.
Sure.
Like, Michael was a brilliant singer, performer, and a great lyricist.
Yeah.
And when, we used to work together, Michael didn't actually play an instrument. Mm-hmm. His instrument was his voice, if you like, and his input was always, an overview. And I'm a musician first and foremost. I sing as well, but my main thing is, as well as lyrics, is mainly playing instruments.
Right.
So we were a good team, and we didn't so much compete as we worked together to get the best result. But Never Tear Us Apart, it's interesting how that came about. We're actually in New Zealand, which is near Australia, but it's a different country.
Sure.
We were at a friend's house, and I played a piece of music that I'd already written to Michael, and he said, "That's great. What is that?" And I said, "I don't know. It's something I'm messing around with." And it was kind of like an old Fats Waller blues sort of feel. The way I'd written it originally. It still was in 3/4 time, and then when he heard it, he went, "I think I've got a lyric that would sound great on that." And that was how easy that came together, you see. But that was how we used to work. We work anywhere, do it, any time, any place, and we talk a lot about the ideas we had before we even recorded them.
That creative process is so interesting to me. When you look at an artist like Elton John and Bertie Taupin, where, you know, Bernie will write the lyrics and hand them to Elton, and he'll put music to them. It sounds like maybe it was a little bit reverse here. Like you'd write this great piece of music, or you'd have a section of music or a riff, and then you'd play it, and he's like, hey, I think I've got something in my notebook of scribbled down little lines that just sound good together.
Yeah, that is pretty true of a lot of the way. Well, we worked in different ways together too. I think a lot of people think when you're songwriting, you just thrash it out with a couple of acoustic guitars and make stuff up. Right. Well, we didn't do that very much.
Yeah.
You know, that's the irony, is sometimes we wouldn't spend long together at all. I would already have ideas, he would already have ideas, and you know, and we'd just throw stuff together. And sometimes he would suggest in a way to me that was, I don't know how to explain it. It was like talking to an alien, because he didn't understand some music, you know, theory. And so he'd say to me, I kind of want it to be like this, like red or yellow or blue or with green bits in it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. You know, and I'd have to kind of try to figure out what he was trying to do. And it would sometimes work the other way around, you know, or I'd say to him, look, I want to do it like this. And he didn't really know what I was trying to do. So I'd lay it all out, you know.
Yeah. The thing I always loved about INXS, and you guys are like my top 5 of all time.
Thank you.
The thing that I loved about you guys is that every album seemed different. It was a little different. It sounded different. It wasn't the same old formula. You know, you'd have songs that were very, like you said, bluesy, you know, and then there'd be like some funk in there.
Yeah.
You know, and I think of a song like Mystify, which to me just sounds like this great, gritty, raw pub song. I mean, it's just, and the thing is it changed from album to album, and then you got into the 90s, and there was maybe a little more electronic type stuff going on, and like Taste It, and it just I know it was, everything was different. You really evolved.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true. Eventually, we walked upright, you know. But you know, but no, that is true. We used to kind of throw everything in the mix, and before we were INXS, also we were the Farriss brothers. And we used to play other people's songs as covers, you know, Rolling Stones or Roxy Music, and you know, some weird sort of left-wing Brian Eno stuff, you know, from things he got into, or you know, Elvis Costello, and lots of different things we used to play for covers, Doobie Brothers or whatever. And so we learned to play all these different styles of music, and that was our way to pay the rent.
Sure.
You know, like any you know, kind of rock band or band that starts out, you know, you got to do things you really don't want to do, but you do it. You learn a lot though. Yeah. And when it came to our recordings, I think the very thing that you which I appreciate that you're saying you liked about INXS, was also difficult for us with the record company, because we didn't keep putting out the same kind of music.
Oh yeah, they just want to stamp everything the same, you know.
Sure,
yeah, that works. That works. Let's just do that a million times.
It's easier to get it on the radio format or whatever it is you're trying to do. But we said, well, no, that's not the kind of recording we want to do this time on the album or whatever. And we always used to kind of put influences in. I always used to play synthesizers early on the piece, so when I started to hear more sort of EDM, electronic type music, I was like, yeah, I can get behind this, because I already understood the technology, you know. And so we never, and funk, we've always loved playing funk music. The funny thing is, you're right, we sound like a pub band sometimes, because that's what we were. Right. We originally we played in Australian pubs. We played everywhere, you know, and all over Australia in the early years, you know. And then when we came to the US, we couldn't understand at first. You have all these like girls screaming and this kind of stuff going on, you know, and we were like, what is this? Because we'd been used to harder environments with a kind of
in a bar, like he's like in a pub, crew, you know, where sometimes you have to duck from bottles being thrown or something like that, you know.
Blues Brothers film,
right? That's right. That's right.
But you know, you learn as you go along, and you take it all, you know, as a learning experience. Right. You just put it in the music and you say, well, this is what we're doing.
I know late last year you and Michael were inducted into the Australian Songwriters Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, you obviously went in there for your body of work with INXS and the Farriss brothers and all that. But I know you're still writing, and I know you're still producing and recording, right? What are you working on these days? What kind of gets your creative juices going?
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting you should ask that. I've had to do, a lot of sort of self-examination, if you like, and that's helping me to be a better person, if I can put it that way, but also to be a better father and a brother and a friend to people and a better husband, etc., etc. But also what I'm trying to do with my writing now is to focus more on just doing stuff that I love to do because I enjoy it. Right. That sounds very selfish, but as opposed to sometimes I used to write for more kind of sideways reasons, whereas now I'm just writing for whatever I feel like writing. I'm actually kind of excited about some work that I'm working on at the moment, and it's I don't even know how to explain it, and it's the way I've worked in the past, where I'll take different genres of music, and I dabble with instruments. I'll put an instrument into a song that you wouldn't normally think it should be there. You're like, what's that doing in there? You know?
The explanation comes out when you put the music out.
Yeah, sure.
And then we hear it, and we're like, got it.
Right.
I got it, totally. So I have to ask you, why are you in Dayton, Ohio, of all places on the planet?
Right. Well, I have family here.
Okay.
And friends.
Friends, all right. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like it also because, being an Aussie as well, I didn't come from a big city.
Right.
And so I'm comfortable in small towns as well as, out in the country. It doesn't bother me at all.
Well, I follow you on Facebook, and I saw that you went down to Entertainment Junction, the world's largest model railroading layout.
Yeah, Neil Young's got a layout in there, too.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
Yes. Yeah. So are you a big model railroad guy, or just
I
like trains in general?
But I like him, too, because it's something you can look at artistically, or you enjoy it, and it doesn't hurt anybody.
Right, that's right. That's right. My dad was a big model railroader, and he tried to get me involved when I was young, and we did one layout together, but I was always upstairs playing records and playing radio in my bedroom while he was down there tinkering with the trains and everything.
Right, but they're both going around.
Yes, that's right. Maybe that's what it is. It's this kind of obsessive, compulsive thing of just spinning around and around. That's right. That's right. So, I have to ask, I know you probably get asked this a million times, any future NXS music? I know there's always been these little quotes here and there on the internet. Well, somebody's thinking about it, or...
Yeah, well, at this stage, I don't think so. We last did our last show in 2012.
Right.
And, but, stay tuned.
Right. Creatively, you just sometimes have to move on.
Well, I've always been a songwriter,
right,
and I always will be.
Right, but I mean, like everybody in the band, you've got family, they've got interests, they've got all these things, and it's like, well, that was great, it paid the bills, had a load of fun, time for something else.
Well, also that's right, but as a songwriter, you don't have anything interesting to write about if you don't have a life.
That's right. That is a good question. I mean, when you were writing, for INXS, you kind of look on the spectrum of what was going on in the world. How much did that influence your songwriting, if at all? And how about now? Things are much different. Things are a little scarier.
Well, that's true. I mean, interestingly enough, though, I don't think we're the first generation to see change.
True.
I think there's always going to be change, and there always has been change. And the thing that you can do really is try to just be positive and put something good into whatever you're doing somehow.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for stopping by. I know you've got stuff to do. You're on vacation, so I really appreciate you coming in and talking to me and talking to the listeners here
You're welcome,
at the Eagle. I appreciate it. Nice meeting you.
You too.
Thanks.